Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bedomy and this is Batman Arkham Asylum, an action-adventure game featuring the Dark Knight as he's trying to prevent Joker's attempt to take over the Arkham Asylum. It's a game developed by Rocksteady and produced by Warner Bros. Studios, and it's a very faithful adaptation of the Dark Knight's mythos and characters. And it also features the voices of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as the Batman and the Joker, so it's a plus in my book. Honestly, I am not too big of a hero genre fan, but Batman is one of my favorite characters, and action adventure games are something I like to do, so this is, I'm not gonna say a godsend, but it is something I am interested in playing and doing a first impressions of. So as you can see, I've done quite a bit of the story mission and progress, a lot of riddles. I took care of a lot of riddles and challenges in this game already. But we're not going to spoil the plot for anyone who hasn't played the game yet, even though the game is, let's see, when did it came out? The game has a lot of years behind it already, because this is a first game in the trilogy of Arkham, even though there's also Origins, but that's not created by Rocksteady, it's created by Warner Bros. Montreal, so it's not considered part of the trilogy, which is Arkham Asylum, City, and Night. And also Night was a terrible port on the PC, so I'm not looking forward to reviewing that one. But Arkham Asylum and City is something I'm looking forward to playing and also doing a first impressions of for everyone to enjoy. But before we start, I would like to apologize for the lack of content in the last few weeks. I was busy with the coronavirus epidemic and also an earthquake that hit my hometown, so I'm really sorry. I have a day job and it includes taking care of the civilian unrest. I mean, we work with the police and we have to help out in the time of crisis. I know it's not something that makes a lot of sense, but I'm not sure how much I can say about my work without getting in trouble. So for that, I'm sorry, but that's about the best disclosure I can give you without getting myself into more problems that I usually have. Anyway, let's not waste too much time and take a look at the options menu. And since this is a console port, I will have to say that the in-game options are really minimalistic. If you want to set up your video settings at the very least, video settings and rebind your keys, you have to do it from the startup menu, which basically means you have to shut down the game, start it up again, and then go into settings in order to set up your resolution, video effects such as anti-aliasing. Do you want it in full screen? Do you want character details to be high or low? And I forgot to record that, so you'll have to take my word on this one. Actually, I could probably just re-record this later on and just set it at the front. Anyway, let's take a look at the game options and the options present in the game. So, and how many times did I say and so already? Never mind. Let's take a look at the options and then go to the gameplay. As you can see, the options are inverted look, inverted rotation, basically mouse controls or gamepad controls, and in the terms of vibration and how do you like to control your camera and movement in flight. And also you can adjust brightness, but I would recommend you play this at the darker settings because the game is very atmospheric and it looks best when it's viewed in the darkest setting possible. Unless you have eye troubles, then I suggest you play this on higher brightness levels, but for the sake of YouTube and everything and compression, this is going to be on 50-60% brightness, so you can all enjoy it and see it for, I'm not gonna say glory, but you're gonna enjoy the visual quality, I hope. Then again, I am going to compress this and add this a bit, so hopefully nothing too drastic. Audio options are again rather minimalistic, but considering that subtitles can be turned on or off, and every specific audio volume has its own slider, I'm not going to complain too much. It's always nice when you can control which type of sound do you want to hear. Do you want to focus on special effects and music, or you just want to hear the voice acting, which I do recommend you crank up to the maximum, because voice acting in this game is phenomenal. Every voice actor in the game give it their best, and the conversations might not be Shakespearean level of quality, but it's an interesting stuff to hear when there's always something interesting to hear from the NPCs and enemies you're encountering. And also, I don't have to tell you, but Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are doing the voices of Batman and Joker for years now, and they know what they're doing. These guys are always a joy to listen to, and their chemistry and energy they present in the game is just something I could die a happy man if I'm listening to them. Just bickering or taunting each other. The control scheme is not rewindable in game. You have to turn off the game and start it up and rewind it from there. But the control schematics are easy to learn and user friendly, so not too much of a problem. But there is something I would like to address. Run, glide, and use are all bound to the same key, which isn't a good thing. Let's say I'm in a fight and I have to either dodge or run away from a fight, but there's something I have to interact with as well, so I accidentally stand next to the thing I have to interact, and then interact with it instead of dodge an enemy attack and get pummeled to death. It's not something major, but I wish this was not bound to the same key. Basically, it's not very helpful when you're in a rush or in an action game where timing and movement are essential to survival. But then again, this was primarily designed for consoles and then ported to the PC by the creators, so it's a give and take situation. On one hand, it's a good port because everything works. It has a stable frame rate. It's compatible. It's not crashing with my PC, and it's not ported by high voltage. Ugh. Which is a plus in my book. On the other hand, some things were butchered for console controllers, such as some interaction keys or movement keys. And that about sums up the options. And now I just sound like one of those guys from Death Clock, at least the animated series. Broken English all the way. Even though my English is usually better. Anyway, let's take a look at the story, and then we can take a look at the challenge mode and other downloadable content, as well as trophies, which are basically character models. Actually, let's take a look at the character models first, because the people at Rocksteady really went above and beyond the Call of Duty when it comes to designing these characters, and they were very passionate about the love of Batman and his mythos. I mean, just look at this. The character detail models have very small details around them. For example, Batman's I'm not gonna say crotch, but Batman's armor and costume have small. I have no idea how to call this stitch. I'm not gonna say stitches, but I wish that I could move the mouse more normally. You see these small scale-like things on his legs and the rest of his body. It's small detail, but it's always nice to see when the effort is put to make characters look more, I'm not say rugged, but more realistic to the world they're in. this means that this is armor. This is not some spandex level of simple spandex. This is an armor that Batman wears and that protects him from danger and other hazardous materials. Also, you can see injuries and smaller cuts and damage he sustained during battle, as well as the cape. I love the character detail on this, and this is not even on high detail. Or, yeah, I'm not playing this on highest level of detail, and it's already this well detailed. Granted, the world around the character isn't the... Well, actually, why am I explaining this when we can just look at it? The character models are well detailed, but the world is well designed. But I think there is a bit of a whoa. Oh, I forgot we're in a boss fight. Actually, this is good. I can demonstrate the combat already. The details around the world are a bit less focused on than the characters, because as less polygons are used for this. Or actually, polygons are used for this properly. Oh no! Oh, damn it! Oh, damn it! Okay, the polygons are more used on characters and the world around them, and shit. But the world is very atmospheric, and you can actively... Oh, no. You can enjoy it and feel afraid because enemies are attacking you and you're in an asylum, which is supposed to give you some sense of dread and foreboding as you're attacked by crazy inmates or general inmates from prison. And I'm really sorry about stuttering here, but this is a boss fight, and I don't want to lose just yet. Nope. Oh. But at least we can demonstrate the combat. Shite. Okay, this is bad. This is bad. We can demonstrate the combat. You're usually put in a room with a bunch of enemies, and you have to avoid attacks. I mean, you have to avoid getting hit by them, and then you die because you're overwhelmed and you didn't loot and.
The people of Gotham, who I will be seeing very, very soon.
Mark Hamill, people. One and only. Joker. Anyway, as I was saying, you're usually put in a room with a bunch of enemies, and if you don't know how to move or counter their attacks, you're kind of screwed. But I'm actually glad this happened, because now I can demonstrate what happens when you die off. The head villain of the situation will start taunting you, depending on if you're fighting a boss character or if you're just in a specific area that's controlled by a specific villain. Basically you'll get taunted by specific villains depending on the situation you're in, or you can just be smart and use your enemies to get rid of smaller thugs. So basically I use the boss to get rid of some smaller thugs, or at the very least knock them out. But there is some criticism to be made about the boss fights. Most of them are just avoiding big guys, shite, in a small room filled with smaller thugs, which can kill you. And also, hitboxes are somewhat unfair in certain situations, because you get swarmed by enemies and you cannot cancel an attack animation to counter an enemy attack, or you have to time your counter properly to get rid of one enemy that's attacking you. And oh crap! To avoid one enemy that's attacking you and then get punched by another enemy that's... Oh shit. To avoid one enemy that's attacking you and then attack another guy. Oh no. Why did I do it? to avoid one guy that's attacking you and get hit by another guy you didn't see coming. And sometimes the counter mechanic doesn't work properly. I mean, I timed this properly and everything, but nope, I get hit anyway. And also, there is no invulnerability stage when you're attacking or trying to knock out an enemy that's trying to kill you. Okay, thugs are down, thugs are down. Now we only have to contend with the boss. It is a challenging game to master, but once you get into the flow of combat, you're basically unstoppable. And this is new. You can, once you knock out the hell bar of a boss, you can use him to trash the room around. Good to know. So I'll try to control this freak into the electric door and knock these guys out. Please get into the electricity. Oh crap. Okay, one guy down. A bunch of them are coming in and I will not be able to counter or do anything properly. Oh god, we're gonna die again, aren't we? Okay, we'll avoid this guy. We'll avoid these guys and use the boss to knock some of them out. Unfortunately, nothing of the sort happens. And we survived by the skin of our teeth. Okay, come on, come on. Come on, come on. Get away, get away, get away. No, 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 no. Woo, 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 woo. Oh god, I sound like a lunatic right now. At the very least, the big guy is attacking blindly so we can... Shit! No! Bloody hell. So yeah, that's the combat system. You run around and try to avoid getting hit by the enemies, as well as counter their attacks, attack them, and also you have to prioritize who you're attacking. Who are you attacking in order to survive the situation you're in. That was the boss fight, which was challenging and somewhat unfair, but luckily we have some other challenges we can use to demonstrate the rest of the gameplay without spoiling the story for anyone. Unfortunately, there is one problem I wish I could avoid or sidestep at the moment. The game is an open world. Yeah, it is an open world on a small island, the Arkham Island, where you actually explore the whole Arkham Asylum and collect collectible trophies, challenges, and solve puzzles created by the Riddler. At the moment, we cannot find any puzzles because I already took care of most of them. So you'll have to take my word for it. And look at this challenge I'm going to use as a demonstration for another part of the gameplay, which is the stealth system in this one. And also we will demonstrate the usage of the detective vision, which is Batman's sixth sense, let's call it. Basically, Batman uses a wall hack to turn the world blue and yellow, and yellow highlights anything that can be interacted with. The blue is just night vision that lets you see through the walls and also highlights the enemies you're supposed to take out. At the moment, you're seeing red enemy skeletons, which means these guys are using guns, which is something we want to avoid at any cost. Usually you don't have to worry about timers or anything, but this is a challenge, so we're doing this for mostly just bragging rights and no rewards in general. As you're searching the world, you'll find collectibles which tend to unlock certain bonuses, well, not in-game bonuses, but just bonus content for the game, such as extra challenges, extra challenges, maybe some extra experience you can use to upgrade yourself in order to get more equipment or better moves for attacking your enemies. And also you can use the environment to your advantage in order to scare your enemies into attacking blindly at each other. Well, not at each other, but waste most of their ammunition or time searching for somewhere where you're not. You can also explore hidden areas and find collectibles and other puzzles which are currently not present. And I'm sorry for stuttering a bit, but it's been a while since I did this, and I also need to think on how to approach my enemies. As you can see, if I'm spotted, these guys can shoot me on the spot and I'm kinda screwed. Luckily, we can use the situation to our advantage and just knock out one of these guys. Get the hell out of here before I get shot. Okay, bad idea. Okay, come on. So this is what happens when you're trying to demonstrate something and don't take the time to look at the terrain you're in. At the moment, I'm surrounded by gun-toting villains, and I'm gonna be dead in 5 seconds if I'm not careful. So half of my health is gone, and the enemy knows where I am. Luckily, they're just searching for me, since I'm in the. I'm not gonna say sewers, but in an air duct. And I really want to avoid this guy because shotgun. Not something I'm too keen on finding out how powerful that is. Anyway, let's talk a bit more about the gadgets and the stealth combat in this one. As you can see, when we're spotted, the enemy will go on high alert and group up and start searching for for the Batman and your last location. They will also group up and look after each other's back. Not each other's back, but their backs. They'll have their backs turned to each other and protect each other. So you cannot just simply get behind them and attack them like with a self takedown or simply attack them in general. But you can manipulate the area you're in and get the thugs to search for you. As you can see, I used a sonic batarang to distract one of them and then detonated the batarang in question in order to shock him into submission and unconsciousness. I can also use the explosive gel to get rid of the nearby wall, which can also be used as a knockout tool when the enemy is close to it. But unfortunately, the enemies are nowhere near the wall, so we're just gonna have to wait here and knock them out one by one. So as one of these guys is looking somewhere else, I'll come closer to him, knock him out, and get the hell out of Dodge. This is something I don't recommend you do when you're hiding and enemies are searching for you and they're scared. They'll start checking areas you can hide in, and they'll flush you out or kill you outright. It depends on where you are at the moment. As you can see, one of these guys just spotted the downed comrade and called the rest of them, but also they got notified because of the collars around their necks. The moment they're knocked out, the collars will start playing a tune, and the Joker will notify his men that you're in the area and that someone is knocked out. So for the moment, we'll get away from this area and try to find a different spot to approach the enemy, like the gargoyle, for instance. We'll slide around, wait for them to come to us, or we can actually be smarter about this and use the explosive gel to knock this guy out with the seal. Ta-da! One bad guy down, one to go. Now the question is, do we attack him with the glide kick, or do we wait for him to show up and simply take him out from the gargoyle like Spider-Man? And since I'm rather chauvinistic at the moment, I think the inverted takedown is something of a staple for Batman, as well as the glide kick, but the inverted takedown has a little more flair and it's better looking for the most part. Unfortunately, this guy is under the graders, so I cannot attack him directly. Well, I cannot take him out invertedly, so I'll have to glide kick him out into submission. But that can help us demonstrate the knockout mechanic. So when you see the stars around the bad guy's head, you can just crouch next to him and knock him out senseless. And since most of these guys are knocked out, we managed to finish the level with a decent score. Unfortunately, it took me longer than usual because I was trying to explain everything, and we didn't do the mind your heads challenge, which basically means you usually use batarangs behind cover to knock out one enemy and then finish him off, or simply invert. There are different ways of taking out enemies if you're in stealth mode. Unfortunately, we're stuck at a boss fight, which means we're not in a situation where we can demonstrate that, nor can we actually demonstrate the Riddler trophies and other collectibles, but you saw the basic gist of the game. It's either direct fighting with enemies, it's using the environment to your advantage to scare the enemies and then taking them out silently. You could also use the detective mode to, well, check the enemy's conditions and which enemies are armed with different weaponry. Some thugs usually use knives or stun batons, which can give them different bonuses in a fight. For example, the stun baton can shock you if you're attacking the enemy if you're not attacking the enemy from the back. You'll get shocked and damaged, and also stunned for a few seconds, and the enemies will just beat you up. So your best bet is to jump over the guy wearing the stun gun and simply give him a few punches until he throws the weapon away. The enemies with knives will block your direct attacks, so you have to use the cloak to stun them for a second and then lay down into them. Actually, I can demonstrate that in the fighting gallery, and this is another challenge you can play in the game later on, or just use it for practice as you're fighting the enemy, if you want to practice your countering or knocking out your enemies, or also your timing on knocking out guys in general. As you can see, on harder difficulty you don't get the indicator that the enemy is about to attack you, but on lower difficulties you get these thunderbolts around their heads that will indicate that the enemy is about to attack you. And we can also use the cloak to stun enemies for a few brief seconds and then attack everyone else away from us, or knock them out into the level hazards, such as these electronic doors. Unfortunately, I'm not using the... I'm using the doors on myself, apparently. Okay, let's see. If we can get one of these guys closer, we can probably knock him into the door, or we can just knock him out and knock out the second guy coming behind us. You can also utilize some of your gadgets in a fight to get rid of the enemies coming closer to you, or to get your enemies closer to you and simply disarm them. For example, the grappling hook can disarm enemies and also bring them closer to you, while the batarang can be used as a brief stunner and that will stop an incoming attacker, then it's not dead in its track, but it will prevent him from attacking you as soon as he starts running towards you. We'll knock out one of these guys, get away from this guy, and start attacking the rest of them. Come here, come here, come here. That's for punching me. That's because I'm aroused by attacking people. And that sounded wrong. So let's knock out this guy and end this fight and challenge for the day. So yeah, that's about it for the game. You're fighting enemies, you're searching around the area and utilizing your bat tools to explore the level, collect collectibles, and unlock challenges, character models, and maybe some more backstory about certain characters in the game, such as the bosses or major characters you will encounter during the game. I will, as much as I wish to show you that part, I am not too keen on doing it because that might count as a spoiler, and if you didn't play the game before, it might ruin the experience for everyone that didn't play the game so far. Or we can just enter the character bios and take a look at one of these characters that has a tape attached to it, which will basically give you some backstory about the character, some facts about the character, such as his real name, occupation, and yada yada yada, and his first appearance in comics, some of his basic attributes or known attributes that make him such a threat, or a threat to Batman or to the other villains, depending on which character is in question. And also you have patient interviews, which are voice tapes with character conversations. This is a brief one. I'll only give you a few seconds so you can hear a bit more from Mark Hamill about the Joker. Well, not Mark Hamill's commenting about the Joker, but Mark Hamill playing the Joker, and then some of its backstory. So yeah, you get the interviews with patients and certain characters. For example, endgame bosses, or just bosses in general, mostly bosses, and then you have some minor villains and characters you don't encounter that often, but thanks to the Riddler's challenges, you can find certain objects in the game that will indicate their presence in the world around you're in, and give you the backstory about these characters as well as their involvement in the story of Batman mythos and then again their attributes and what they're doing in their free time. And there is also a specific Spirit of Arkham tablets you can find in the world that will just give you not gonna say a side quest, but a side story that's been revolving around the Arkham Asylum from the day one it was from its origin. Okay, it's not gonna be origin, but it is a descent to madness story of I forgot the guy's name. It's Amadeus Arkham. Of Amadeus Arkham, who was the physician of the psychiatrist and the founder of the Arkham Asylum. It is an interesting story to listen to it and read if you're not listening to the voice actor. But I do recommend you look for it and enjoy it. And I also want to say you should enjoy and play this game when you're able to, if you haven't already. The world is atmospheric. It's well designed. A lot of approaches to combat. It has a lot of approaches to combat, and I nearly said it like Yoda, just without the voice. And let's see. While the fighting mechanics aren't as deep as Devil May Cry or other character action games, this doesn't need to be a character action game. This is a Batman game, and Batman isn't entirely about fighting people. It's also detective work. It's manipulation of the environment to your advantage, intimidation, and the game really captures that. You have a very good combat system which reflects Batman's way of fighting, and granted it could use a little more, and could use more mechanics for fighting itself, such as dedicated punch button, dedicated kick button, and a dedicated combination of buttons will give you different types of attacks. But this was the first game, and I can't wait to see what Arkham City does after I finish Arkham Asylum. Maybe some improvements will be made. Maybe more gadgets will be introduced and more ways to combat our enemies. Not only grappling hooks and with not only grappling hooks and batarangs, but also utilize, I don't know, the explosive gel in combat quickly, so you can just knock out your enemies when they approach you like a landmine or something. But that's a story for another day. For now, my name has been Bedomy. Thank you very much for watching, and good night.